The idea of the unseen and intangible. An ode to the unseen. Poets of flowers, singers of nooks and space, petal-mongers, embroiderers of words, in the music-haunted houses of the birds, singers with the thrushes and peewees, and the glimmer-lighted roofs of the trees, unhand my soul. Buds with singing in their hearts, birds with blooms upon their wings, all the wandering whispers of delight, the near familiar things. Voice of pine trees, winds of daisies, sounds of going in the grain, shall not bind me to thy singing when the sky with God is ringing for the joy of the rain. Sea and star and hill and thunder, dawn and sunset, noon and night, all the vast processional of the wonder where the worlds are, where my soul is, where the shining tracks are for the spirit's flight. Lift thine eyes to these from the haunts of dewdrops, hollows of the flowers, caves of bees that sing like thee. Only in their bowers from the stately growing cities, to the infinite windless eaves of the stars. From the dainty music of the ground, the dim innumerable sound of the mighty sun, creeping in the grass, softest stir of his feet where they go far and slow on their immemorial beat. Of buds and seas, and all the gentle and holy needs of flowers, to the old eternal ground of the going of his might, above the confines of the dark, odors and winds and showers, day and night, above the dream of death and birth, flickering east and west, boundaries of a shadow of an earth where he wheels and soars and plays in illimitable light, sends the singing of the stars upon their ways, and on each and every world, when the little shadow for its little sleep is furled, pours the days. The first time I gazed in the great town upon a solid mile of electric cars threaded with nothing, mesmerism hauling a whole city home to supper, it seemed to me as if the central power of all things, the thing that floats and breathes through the universe, must have been found by someone, gathered up from between stars and turned on, poured down gently on the planet, falling on 1,000 wheels and run on tops of cars, the secret thrill that softly and out in the darkness and through all ages has done all things. I felt as if I had seen the infinite in some near familiar humdrum place. I walked on in a dazed fashion. I do not suppose I could really have been more surprised if I had met a star walking in the street. In my deepest dream I heard the song running in my sleep, through the lowest caves of being down below, where no sound is, sun is, hearing, seeing, that men know. There was something about it, about that sense of the mile of cars moving, that made it all seem very old. An Ode to the Lightning. Before the first new dust of dream God took, for making man and hope and love in graves had kindled to its fate, before the floods had folded round the hills, before the rainbow born of cloud had topped the sky its tints, the lightning minstrel was, the cry of vague to vague, the chaos voice that rolled and crept from out of the pale, bewildered wonder stuff that wove the worlds, before the hand had stirred that touched them, while still hinged on nothing, dim and shapeless thing, and clouds with groping sleep upon their wings floated and waited. Before the winds had breathed the breath of life, or blown from wastes of space to earth's creating place, the souls of seeds and ghosts of old dead stars the lightning spirit willed. Their feet with wonder should be thrilled, primal fire of all desire, that leaps from men to men, brother of suns, and all the glorious ones that circle skies. He flashed to these the night that brought the birth, the vision of the place, and raised his awful face to all their glittering crowds, and cried from where it lay, a tiny ball of fire and clay, in swaddling clothes of clouds, Behold the earth. O heavenly feet of the hot cloud, bringer of the garnered airs, herald of the shining rains, looser of the locked and lusty winds from their misty caves, opener of the thousand gloried doors twixt heaven and heaven's heaven, O thou whose play men make to do their work, why do their work, and call from holidays of space sojourns of suns and moons and lock to earth, why lock to earth? That the dead face may flash across the seas, the cry of the newborn babe be heard around the world. Ah, me, and the click of lust, and the madness, and the gladness, and the ache of dust, dust. An ode to the telegraph wires. The song the world sang laying the Atlantic cable. The mortal wires of the heart of the earth I sing, melted and fused by men, that the immortal fires of their souls should fling to eaves of heaven and caves of sea, and God himself in farthest hills and dimmest bounds of sense, the flame of the creature's ken, the flame of the glow of the face of God upon the face of men. When singing wires along their thousand airy aisles, feet of birds and songs of leaves and glimmer of stars and dewy eves, see singing wires along their thousand slimy miles, shadowy deeps, unsun steeps, beating in their awful caves to mouthing fish and bones and weeds unfurled, deserts of waves, the heartbeat of this upper world, infinite blue, infinite green, infinite glory of the ear ticking its passions through, infinite fear, ooze of storm, sodden and slanting wrecks, the forever untrodden decks of death, ever the seething wires on the floors of the world below the last locked fast water-darkened doors of the sun, lighting the awful signal fires of our speechless vast desires. On the mountains and the hills of the sea till the sandy buried heights and the sullen sunken vales, and fire-defying barrens of the deep the hearth of souls shall be, beacons of thought, and from the lurk of the shark to the sunrise-lighted eyrie of the lark, and where the farthest cloud-sail fills, shall be felt the throbbing and the sobbing and the hoping, the might and mad delight, the hell and heaven groping of our little human wills. An ode to the wireless. The prayer of man throughout all the years in which the sky telegraph would not work. Roofed in with fears beneath its little strip of sky that is blown about, in and out, across my wavering strip of years, who am I, whose singing scarce doth reach the cloud-climbed hills, to take upon my lips the speech of those whose voices heaven fills with splendor? And yet I cannot quite forget that in the underdawn of dreams I have felt the faint surmise, shining through the starry deep of my sleep, that I with God went singing once up and down the suns and storms, through the phantom-pillared forms and stately silent naves and thunder-dreaming caves of heaven. Great Spirit, thou in my being's burning mesh hath wrought the shining of the mist through and through the flesh, who through the double-wondered glory of the dust has thrust habits of skies upon me, souls of days and nights where the deeds that needs must be, the dreams, the high delights, that I once more may hear my voice from cloudy door to door rejoice, may stretch the boundaries of love beyond the mumbling mock horizons of my fears to the faint remembered glory of those years, may lift my soul and reach this heaven of thine with mine? Where are the gleams? Thou shalt tell me, shalt compel me, the sometime glory shall return, I know. The day shall be, when by wandering I shall learn with vapor fingers to discern the music-hidden keys of skies, shall touch like thee, until they answer me, the chords of the silent air, and strike the wild and slumber music out dreaming there. Above the hills of singing that I know, on the trackless soundless path, that wonder hath I shall go beyond the street cry of the poet, the hurdy-gurdy singing of the throngs, to the throne of silence, where the doors that guard the farthest faintest shores of day swing their bars, and shut the songs of heaven in from all our dreaming doing din behind the stars. There at last the climbing and the singing past, and the cry my hushed and listening soul shall lie at the feet of the place where the singer sings, who hides his face. The Idea of Great Men. I had a vision under a green hedge, a hedge of hips and haws men yet shall hear, archangels rolling over the high mountains, old Satan's empty skull. As it looks from Mount Tom, casting a general glance around, the earth has been put into shape now to do things. The earth has never been seen before looking so trim and convenient, so ready for action as it is now. Steamships and looms and printing presses and railways have been supplied, wireless telegraph furnishings have lately been arranged throughout, and have put in speaking tubes on nearly all the continents, and it looks, as seen from Mount Tom, at least as if the planet were just being finished up now for a great author. It is true that art and literature do not have, at first glance, a prosperous look in a machine age, but probably the real trouble the modern world is having with its authors is not because it is a world full of materialism and machinery, but because its authors are the wrong size. The modern world, as it booms along, recognizes this in its practical way, and instead of stopping to speak to its little authors, to its poets crying beside it, and stooping to them and encouraging them, it is quietly and sensibly, as it seems to some of us, going on with its machines and things, and making preparations for bigger ones. I have thought the great authors in every age were made by the greatness of the listening to them. The greatest of all, I notice, have felt listened to by God. Even the lesser ones, who have sometimes been called greatest, have felt listened to, most of them, one finds, by nothing less than nations. Jesus gathers kingdoms about him in his talk like an infant class. It was the way he felt. Almost anyone who could have felt himself listened to in this daring way that Jesus did would have managed to say something. He could hardly have missed, one would think, letting fall one or two great ideas at least, ideas that nations would be born for. It ought not to be altogether without meaning to a modern man that the great prophets and interpreters have talked as a rule to whole nations, and that they have talked to them generally too for the glory of the whole earth. They could not get their souls geared smaller than a whole earth. Shakespeare feels the generations stretching away like galleries around him listening when he makes love. It was no particular heroism or patience in the man Columbus that made him sail across an ocean and discover a continent. He had the girth of an earth in him and had to do something with it. He could not have helped it. He discovered America because he felt crowded. One would think from the way some people have of talking or writing of immortality that it must be a kind of knack. As a matter of historic fact, it has almost always been some mere great man's helplessness. When people have to be created and born on purpose, generation after generation of them to listen to a man, 2,000 or 3,000 years of them sometimes on this planet, it is because the man himself, when he spoke, felt the need of them and mentioned it. It is the man who is in the habit of addressing his remarks to a few continents and to several centuries who gets them. I would not dare to say just how or when our next great author on this earth is going to happen to us, but I shall begin to listen hard and look expectant the first time I hear of a man who gets up on his feet somewhere in it and who speaks as if the whole earth were listening to him. If ever there were an earth that is getting ready to listen, and to listen all over, it is this one. And the first great man who speaks in it is going to speak as if he knew it. It is a world which has been allowed, about 1,000,000 years now, to get to the point of where it could be said to begin to be conscious of being a world at all. And I cannot believe that a world which, for the first time in its history, has at last the conveniences for listening all over, if it wants to, is not going to produce at the same time a man who shall have something to say to it. A man that shall be worthy of the first single full audience, sunset to sunset, that has ever been thought of. It would seem as if, to say the least, such an audience as this, gathering half in light and half in darkness around a star, would celebrate by having a man to match. It would not be necessary for him to fall back either, one would think, upon anything that has ever been said or thought of before. Already even in the sight and sounds of this present world has the verse of Scripture about the next come true, eye hath not seen nor ear heard. It is not conceivable that there shall not be something said unspeakably and incredibly great to the first full house the planet has afforded. I have gone to the place of books. I have seen before this all the peoples flocking past me under the earth with their little corner saviors, each with his own little disk of worship all to himself on the planet, partitioned away from the rest for thousands of years. But now the whole face of the earth has changed. No longer can great men and great events be aimed at and glanced off on it into single nations. Great men, when they come now, can generally have a world at their feet. It is not possible that we shall not have them. The whole earth is the wager that we are going to have them. The bids are out. Great statesmen, great actors, great financiers, great authors, even millionaires will gradually grow great. It cannot be helped. And it will be strange if someone cannot think of something to say with this first full house this planet has afforded. Even as it is now, let any man with a great girth of love in him but speak once, but speak one single round-the-world delight, and nations sit at his feet. When Rudyard Kipling is dying with pneumonia, 7 seas listen to his breathing. The nations are in galleries on the stage of the earth now, one listening above the other to the same play following a round sunrise. Every one is affected by it, a kind of soul suction, a great pulling from the world. People who do not want to write at all feel it, a kind of huge soft capillary attraction apparently, to a pen. The whole planet kindles every man's solitude. Continents are bellows for the glow in him, if there is any. The wireless telegraph beckons ideas around the world. How does a planet applaud, dreams the young author? With a faint flush of light? One would like to be liked by it, speak one's little piece to it. When one was through, one could hear the soft hurrah through space. I wonder sometimes that in this presence I ever could have thought or had times of thinking it was a little or a lonely world to write in, to flicker out thoughts in. When I think of what a world it was that came to men once, and the world that waits around me, all around all of us now, I do like to mention it. When many years ago as a small boy I was allowed for the first time to open the little inside door in the paddle box of a great side-wheel steamer and watched its splendid thrust on the sea, I did not know why it was that I could not be called away from it, or why I stood and watched hour after hour unconscious before it, the thunder and the foam piling up upon my being. I have guessed it now. I watch the drive wheel of an engine now as if I were tracking out at last the last secret of loneliness. I face time and space with it. I know I have but to do a true deed, and I am crowded round to help me do it. I know I have but to think a true thought, but to be true and deep enough with a book, feel a world-full for it, put a world-fool in it, and the whole planet will look over my shoulder while I write. Thousands of printing presses under 1,000 skies I hear truth working softly, saying over and around the earth the word that was given to me to say. Can anyone believe that this strange, new, deep, beautiful, clairvoyant feeling a man has nowadays, every day, every hour, for the other side of a star, is not going to make arts and men and words and actions great in the world? Silently, you and I, gentle reader, are watching the first great gathering in of a world to listen and to live. The continents are unanimous. There has never been a quorum before. They are getting together at last for the first world-sized man, for the first world-sized word. They are listening him into life. It is really getting to be a planet now, a whole completed, articulated, furnished, lived-through, loved-through star, from sun's end to sun's end. One sees the sign on it. To let, to any man who really wants it.